And I have the pleasure of introducing and bringing up stage the Senior Sales Manager at Rack Center, Mr. Abiodun Sani. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. He has over 20 years of work experience in project engineering, sales, strategy, and business development in B2B and B2C, gained from quality engagements in various industries, especially oil and gas, telecoms, and information technology. You're very welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let me grab some mics for you. Ladies and gentlemen, this panel session would consider cybersecurity in the digital age, all the challenges, all the solutions. So I would employ us to pay rapt attention as I hand over to the moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And also recognizing the chairperson of LCCI and all protocols duly observed. And also congratulations on the 10th anniversary of this expo. I hope to be around for the celebration party. We're discussing something very important, and I like how it was strategically positioned after the session on data protection, because it's almost like a perfect segue into it. There are two forms of security nowadays. There's the physical security that we use. We have padlocks on our doors, we have gatemen at our gate. But we have another form of security, which is our cyber security. Because whether we like it or not, more than half of our life is on digital space, either via our phones, either via our smartwatches, or either via our laptops. And because our life is so easy with devices, we put in a lot of our personal and also identifiable information into these platforms. What we don't know, or what we sometimes don't understand, is that there are guys who are learning seriously, who are adept in breaching and in finding their ways into this platform so that they can either have access to our data, or they can have access to our ad-end money, or they can have access to our ad-end reputation and use it for dubious means. So on this panel, we'll be discussing the cybersecurity in digital age, its challenges and solutions. Interestingly, even at the Olympics presently, there's some allegations that some Iranians have hacked into the database of the Olympians and have gotten the information of Israeli athletes and put them out on social media and ask people to call them and give them death threats. So even on a day-to-day basis, there are people out there who are interested in breaking in, like we say. So I would open up with this first question, and we'll have one question and everyone will give their perspectives to the question. We have 3 questions to ask, and then we open up for questions from the audience. So the first question is, there are various forms of cybersecurity hacks, various forms of challenges, various forms of breaches. In your opinion, what are the most pressing ones in this digital age? And you can decide to go as far as even in Nigeria. And what is contributing to it? So I'll start with Mr. Smith.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so if you look around us today, you see that we are actually faced with cyber security threats all over us today. And then if you want to go deep dive, you talk about even in the banking sector, you talk about our mobile phone. Recently, you see someone calling you from your WhatsApp, requesting that maybe you had an accident and he needs you to help. Yeah, these are very close family member. And before you know it, they send account number, and out of pity, you just credit that person, only for you to find out that that account has been hacked. It's not really the actual person who owns that account that is sending that message. So this is what we've been seeing all over, and people keep on sending money, you know. So this is one of the biggest threats that we've seen so far that is very, very common today.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to a very random poll. How many of us, I'm sure everybody has, use WhatsApp on their phones? Just signal by raising of hands. How many of you have been called by someone that you think you know, and it tells you, and it is asking you to tell him the code on your WhatsApp? How many of us? Now that is a classic example of a cybersecurity hack. Now what he wants is access to your WhatsApp. Then he will then use, then he then has control of your own WhatsApp. You no longer has it. And everybody he messages assumes you are the one messaging them, and it not only dents your reputation, but even asks you for money. And sometimes by the time you get access to WhatsApp, people are telling you, oh, now you are owing me 200,000 naira. Shebi, you messaged me yesterday saying I should send you some money for your child's hospital treatment. That is a classic case, which I'm sure most people have undergone. So thank you very much for that, because that is one way in which people don't even see it as something very serious. You just say, oh, I didn't give them and that's all. But that is why even WhatsApp has taught us to have our two-factor authentications, so that no one would have it as easy as those who are trying their best. So then I'll go to Mr. Albert. What are your thoughts on the cybersecurity challenges, and what do you think is contributing to it?
Okay, thank you so much. Cyber security and cyber crime is growing day by day because of so many factors. And I remember many years ago, I was a victim, and I was trying to do a banking transaction. That was in the year 2004. I was just trying to do a banking transaction then, and in that process, I couldn't do it. So the next day, I got a mail from the bank in quotes that I need to update. Something was telling me I shouldn't. Then, but I went ahead, and the moment I did that update, and I generated a code, that was it. And my account was hit, and money was moved, and before I could call the bank, that money was gone. So what am I trying to say is that cyber attack is something that we have come to live with on a daily basis. In fact, allow me to read some statistics here. The growth of cyber attack in Africa has increased by 300% last year, with Nigeria being one of the most attacked countries. Again, 86% of Nigerian companies fall prey to cyber attack in 2020. Nigeria loses about $500 million yearly to cybercrime. Nigeria ranked second in Africa and fifth global in terms of online threats. 57% of business have experienced cyber attack in Nigeria. I can go on and on. Cybercrime costs global economy over $6 trillion. That is massive. That is so massive. So if we look at it, it is something that have come to stay with us, because for every cybersecurity measure you are putting in place, they are also coming up with different strategy of cybercrime. And there are lots of solutions we need to put in place to be able to reduce it. It may not be able to eradicate it 100%, but to reduce it to the barest minimum. Let me just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for my panelists once again. Thank you. I know the data that you've given out is quite disturbing. And the interesting thing is that we might look at it as huge numbers, but almost some people have lost 10,000 naira here, 20K here, and that is what comes together. You know, it's even so bad that banks are warning us that you might get a message from a bank. You might think it is us, but it is not us. Because if you send you that email, it is supposed to be in this format. So if it is not in this format, be careful. Or it is to be the bank.ng, and if you get an email from the bank.xyz.ng, do not respond. And that is why even our software will tell you to update. And I like what you said about the end, which is, it's almost like our personal security. The minute you say you want to, at some point we were using Tokotaya to close our doors when we were younger. Now we are using keys. Now we are using Agada Godo. Now we are using metal gates. Now we are so that's because as we try to secure ourselves, the thief, the burglar, is also updating his own knowledge and ensuring that he beats the system. Which is why, no matter the level of cybersecurity measures that we have, we cannot rest on our laurels, because the attackers, the phishers, are also going on refresher course every day. They want to keep making money, and you will not allow them. So, Busayo, what are your own thoughts?
Thank you so much. I actually do agree. As you were talking, it just means that the cyber attackers, they are becoming more sophisticated in the way they attack us, which is what it's trying to do. That's why you asked the question if most of us had, gotten a phone call on WhatsApp, and that. So as they are also, innovating, if I can use that word, we also too should be a step ahead. But I think there are also some other challenges that I have identified. I'm coming from the compliance and the legal regulatory angle, the requirements. We saw Dada gave a very lovely presentation on what the Nigerian Data Protection, Commission is doing. So I also understand that this is also a challenge, the myriad of legal, regulatory compliance, the laws that we have to comply with, to be abreast. This can be a challenge, except, especially for the in-house IT experts. So sometimes you might all just need to leverage on, securing cybersecurity experts, to help us to keep abreast of this, evolving legal regulation. I also want to talk about data privacy. There's this major challenge, like she said, people are trying to hack into, to gain access into sensitive data. And in connection with this, I also want to talk about the human factor. The employees, the third parties, your vendors. Your employees, though, if they are not well trained, they can fall, victims to this phishing attack. They see an email purportedly from the CEO or the CEO, and they click on it. And once they click on it, your network system is compromised. So that is also one major challenge. And sometimes the employees might not even know, social engineering, you go out, I meet you, okay, there's a topic there, I'm speaking with you, and you're trying to, extract as much information that you can from me, so that you can use, to attack. So I think for me, these privacy concerns, the regulatory requirements that the vast majority of, every now and then there's a regulation coming out. We have to keep abreast of this so that we are, protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And I like what you said about employees and employers. And that's because a part of cybersecurity goes into organizational branding. The attackers most likely do not know how to replicate 100% who they want to impersonate. And that is why employees are also advised that, see, every email from the organization is in this format, it ends in this format, the font is always in this format, it is always this font size. So if you get an email from anyone that does not meet this requirement, do not respond. We got an email once from someone who hacked into the CEO's, email. I sent an email and said, oh, I am at so and so place. We need to make a payment tomorrow. Kindly do this. And all of us just laughed because, are we mumus here? When in our years of working at the organization, the CEO has never asked us for money. So why is this person asking? But that's because we know. Some employees who don't know, they will say, the CEO is in problem, and the person will click the link, and the whole organization is in trouble. So it's very important that organization also put branding and consistency. And if you don't meet all of those criteria, do not respond, do not pick, or do not click on the link. Now, for the last, input on the challenges and also what is contributing to it, Mr. Abiodun Sani.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I would just say that, with advance in technology, of course, with AI, ML, machine learning, and stuff like that, they are very positives, but they also come with their negatives. So, a lot of vulnerabilities are being created today. We are vulnerable in so many ways. I'll speak on the part of on the part of the person now, individual, the enterprise, and also the regulator, let's say government. What I will say about, in addition to what has been said about we as people, individuals, when it comes to cybercrime, is awareness. You talked about the authentication. That's very good. But there's one I've noticed, and that is very, very important. When you try to do something online, maybe you're trying to download app, and you see terms and conditions there. Many times it could be 2-3 pages, and I tell you, people don't take time to read those things because what you are interested in is the app. So people get on to just click and if you take time to read, you could notice in some cases you'll be told that your data could be used for this and this. But many people don't get to know that, and that is it's happening every day. People download apps, they don't go to the terms and conditions, they just give their consent, and before you know it, they have exposed themselves. So on the part of individuals, that is very important. On the part of enterprises, with cloud computing now, everything in the cloud, a lot of advantages. You save money, stuff, but then it also makes room for the malicious people to have access to your system. So enterprises must increase budget for securing their systems. It has come to a time that we must take cyber security just the way we're taking financial audit in those days. Before, you see that financial auditors were reporting to finance manager until they said put them out and let them report straight to the top executive. It has come to a situation whereby your IT professionals, the IT structure must go straight to the top. It has to be strategic, and in that case budget will be available so that we can have experts. Then the third one on the part of government is, and it's not only limited to Nigeria, if you look at the number of people, cases or people that actually perpetrate cybercrime, and the prosecution that we have is very, very little. There's a report that in the US, as big and as sophisticated as US is only 0.05 of offenders are actually discovered and penalized. Imagine a country like Nigeria. And that's when the NDPC woman was talking about how they always go one step ahead. So regulators, we need to see prosecutions. It's not about profiling. I see police stop cars and say every young guy with dreadlocks and says Yahoo boy. It's not about profiling. It's about applying the right methods to know who are the real guys doing the malicious things, and let it be known that they have been prosecuted, and that will go a long way in helping the society.
Wow, a round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen. I like how you've disaggregated it for various levels, and I like the first example you made about we all want to do things online, and you see terms and conditions, and then you just go scroll to the end and click accept. And there are even some websites that they'll just give you under it, click that I have read it. They don't want to know that you've read it. I read a book about 3 years ago, and there was a particular company overseas who put in their terms and conditions a code to a check of about $10,000, and kept it there for years, saying, we know nobody will read terms and conditions. Nobody will read it. And one very psycho guy just liked reading terms and conditions. And he went there, read it, and saw free $10,000. And they were surprised. And they said it has been there for years, but human beings would never read it. So it's quite important, but we must not lie. Those things are very long. They can be like 10, 15 pages, and I don't have time. I don't have data to read all those things. And also, I like what you said about the government. Because interesting, I think about a month ago, the Nigerian police force, opened their cyber security center. And I know that they are also in partnership with train organizations to deploy cybersecurity civilians to work with them, because we clearly have to be on top of this. Security is no more stop and search. It is now, how do we protect you both online and offline? So I haven't talked about the problems. Let us go into strategies to surmount these challenges. So like we did the first question, I'll go around, but maybe I'll start with you so that we can come back here. What are the top 2 or 3 things or strategies that you think we must know? I'll start with Mr. Abiodun Salami, then we'll come back here. What are the top 2 or 3 strategies or implementation interventions that we have to put in place to reduce this risk of cyber attacks?
Okay, thank you. So on the part of individuals, it's just awareness, awareness, awareness. We must be aware of what is happening and how, if we do not do the right thing, can impact, in the entire, system, the entire chain. So people must be aware that what they do have impact on other people in that value chain. So that awareness is very critical. So we just talked about terms and conditions. Maybe from today, we start reading these terms and conditions. But like in one of the sessions I attended with NDPC also, one of the things I said then was, if we could ensure that these terms and conditions, if it's possible within the law and regulations, to make it as short as possible, maybe just a page so that people can read. So on the part of individuals, awareness, we must be aware. Then on the part of enterprises, good enough, there are enough regulations today, although we still think more will come with advance in technology. NDPC, I'm sure they are certifying enterprises now as per compliance to the Act. Today, if you go to establishments, because it's not just for you to receive people's data, you must also be able to ensure that the data is secured. Now, this establishment, how well are they able to meet up with this regulation? Because they'll need personnel to be able to achieve what NDP, the Act wants them to do. So that means there'll be more money to be budgeted for these purposes. So enterprises must begin to now budget more money to have experts, to have resources to be able to interpret what NDPC is saying. Then thirdly, for companies as well, more experts. We need to train more people within the environment to be able to handle cyber crimes. Now the part of government, what I think they should do, I said something about prosecution earlier. I also think we need to look at the policies that we have today. Now, we talk about Nigerian Data Protection Regulation or Act, and it's a global, the world is global now. It's no longer Nigeria. And Ghana has its own. If you go to Cote d'Ivoire, they have their own. And I'm transacting business from Nigeria to London. So, and there's need for us to harmonize all this, so that in trying to do your own bits here, you're also able to understand that I interact with people outside Nigeria. So they need to do that. That will also help. It's a global village. In as much as we're talking about Nigeria, we should also understand that we are not in isolation, when it comes to that. Then the last one I would say is the follow-up, for experts in that space, IT space. Many of us were interested more in, the systems, facilities and stuff. We should ensure that processes and policies when it comes to governance are in place. Without governance, you cannot achieve anything. Governance is what will make everybody to do the right thing. So you can know when to validate, when to review, when to evaluate, and to look at the gaps and be able to take care of the right things to be done. So I think that is very important. Governance, very, very important. So that's what I can say. I'll leave the space for others to contribute.
Thank you very much. Thank you. From what you've said, I'm sure the lady from data protection will most likely give you an employment letter, because in just a few minutes you've advocated for increased funding to the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. So you're allowed to employ him as your public relations officer because he's already doing the job. So, Mrs. Busayo, please add some. Please, what are your perspectives?
Okay, thank you so much. I think in addition to what he has said, including using individuals, I think I would also employ organizations to use like AI, advanced. It doesn't necessarily have to be personal. You can also use the AI, to ensure that you are able to, foresee these threats and then obviously ensure that they do not happen. And also security audits, I think is very important. It's very necessary that as an organization, you take count, you do your audits, look at your system, see where the vulnerabilities are, and then just ensure that your system is fortified, in case these attacks happen. And in the event that these attacks happen, because they will happen, so what is your response plan? What's your response, your incident plan? What should be done? How soon can you, activate this so that the organization is brought back, so you are not shut out for a long period of time. So I think it's very critical, that we invest in that as the organization. And obviously, training and awareness for the employees, this should be constant. Like we rightly said before, these attacks, they change, it's sophisticated. Every new time they come in with a new method of doing things. So I think the employees, should be kept abreast. Conduct regular trainings for them. Let them know that, oh, this is the way, this is the style that the attack is coming. Because the attack yesterday is not the same as today. The same way they'll say, oh, yesterday's price is not today's price. It keeps changing, it keeps evolving. And I think it's very critical that the organization carries the employees, along. Thank you. I think I'll just...
Thank you very much. And I like what you touched on yesterday's price not being today's price. Data has shown that poor economic conditions increases incidence of cyber attacks because people in countries where unemployment is quite high, economic conditions are not as optimal. Young people understand that if they just hack into someone's account and they can get away with $1 million, why do they have to go and submit CVs? Why do they have to go and do interviews? So it means that as we're experiencing crunch in the economy, we should also expect an increase in the number of cyber attacks. And it was also interesting that at the last election, the government said we had 12.9 million cyber attacks during the elections. Now you can imagine what they were looking for. And that is why when people say, let us start voting electronically, it is a different kettle of fish. Because the ones who can steal the ballot box, you can catch them and hold them and arrest them. But the ones who are going to manipulate figures and turn 1 million to 10 million online, and you see that 1 plus 1 is never equal to 2 online, are people that are difficult to reach. So I like what you said about the fact that we also need talent. And I also see that talent there would also bridge the gap between the police and citizenry. Because when we have young people who are learning cybersecurity and they are then told to work with the Nigerian police, it helps them to understand that these so-called tech bros are not criminals. Some of them are actually good people. Mr. Albert, over to you.
Thank you so much. We are in the jet age, and as a result of that, so many activities is going on the internet, on the network. Just like he said before, it is great, it is important for companies to start to invest into cybersecurity, because the damage, when it happens, it can bring down a company. For instance, according to IBM source, it said global average for time to detect a breach takes 197 days. Just for you to detect it, 197 days. That is for one. So if there are 2, 3, you cannot imagine the effect on your network. So it's time for you to invest on your network security, your information security, your endpoint security. People are doing what we call Internet of Things. Bring your device to office. How do you ensure that those devices that are coming into the office are not being corrupted? That will bring problem to to your network. Also, your cloud security is very important. There are a lot of companies that have taken their cloud into outside of Nigeria to another place. So your cloud security is also very key. So awareness to ensure that people understand what cyber attack is all about. Also, when you are creating your password, try to create it in a way that is a bit complex. Do combinations. For your WhatsApp, make sure you have your two-way authentication, whereby I've been tried several times, but because I have two-way authentication, I never bother. So you need to ensure that you take care of your company, or you also take care of your staff, so that at the end of the day, because if you read the figure that is coming globally is alarming to cyber attacks. So that is to tell you that on daily basis, these attacks keep evolving, they keep changing, and unfortunately, the cyber security is only trying to catch up, not to go ahead in some cases. So we need to ensure that we put all the things we need to put in place to ensure that the attack is reduced to a great extent. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. You know, like Yoruba says, every day for the thief, one day for the owner. So, in as much as those guys are trying to hack, one day we will catch them. And they will pay for all the crimes. I know cyber attacks also have emotional effects on people. The first time I was hacked, my phone was stolen, so it was hacked in. My bank apps were gone into, emails were hacked. For the past 3 years, when I wake up, the first place I go and check is my email account. Because that was what saved me when I had that breach. So, till tomorrow, some people say I like my phone, but is that PTSD of understanding that if I checked my email addresses 2 hours before I checked it 3 years ago, maybe I will have seen the first attempt of 1,000 naira on my account. And for those who attack accounts and take money out, they start incrementally. If you notice, they were attacking with 500 naira recharge card. You did not do anything. They take 1,005. You didn't do anything. Their next transaction is 150,000 naira. So if you miss that 500 naira airtime that did not do anything, brother, they will not only clear the account, they will take a loan on your behalf, and you now go and tell the bank how it is not you who has the phone that is pressing these things. And people's life have been damaged. People are owing monies they never knew how they left their account because of this thing. So awareness. Thank you very much. Mr. Osemeke, over to you. I know you can say they've said it all. You are allowed to say it.
Thank you. So, Dr. Hakim, you mentioned something during the last presidential election. Million of hackers tried to hack that election. Then you now ask yourself, when the minister came to talk about that, he said, do we really have these good guys in Nigeria that actually could be able to counter this cyber attack? Do we really have them to be able to counter over millions of attacks at the same time? Yes, we do. Now, if you see the investment the federal government have actually made in Nigeria to protect such cyber security, millions of dollars have been put in place. If you go to this SOC and where the government have built in Abuja, and you see some of our young experts who are actually monitoring these systems, you know, taking care of the federal government and also enterprises to ensure that our data is being saved. Yes, we really applaud what the federal government have done in that case. So that was why you see the former minister come up to say that, look, we've been able to counter millions of attacks during this presidential election. But the main problem we have is a regulator. We don't actually have a regulator who regulates about our data. Where is our data, whatever. Then if you have ask my friend here from NDPBC, what about our data? They tell you that they are just interested in personal data. And I think that is that. Personal data.
I know she feels like arguing with you, but sure, you can continue.
You know, she will tell you that, look, we're just interested in personal data. Then what happens to other data? we've seen countries who also have policies that 1 gig of data must not leave the country border. Yes, even in Brazil and other countries. Then you don't ask yourself, what about the hyperscalers? What about the Azures? What about these guys have actually built in-country cloud services that can cater and compete with the hyperscalers so that their enterprises, governments can be able to leverage on this cloud provided by the government and other MSPs. My MSPs mean managed service providers in the country. Do we have such here in Nigeria? Yes. The government also have invested huge in cloud platforms. And many of us, when we talk about Galaxy Backbone, some of us don't even know the capability this organization actually have. This is over $400 million investment by federal government to ensure that we have cloud services that can be able to compete with even the hyperscalers, measure up with services. We've just seen what happened recently with the Microsoft. The whole world was like turned almost dark. Why? Because there's just an update from one of their partners called
CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike. And this affected thousands of businesses around the globe. We are not much affected in this part of the world in Nigeria. Why? Because this cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike, they are very expensive. So they deal with top high enterprise. Many of us in this country, part of the world, cannot even afford to use them. And that is why you see that we are not actually affected. Then you now ask yourself, what about here? Do we have here in Nigeria, do we have some of these good guys who have actually, have some products or startups who are working to ensure that we have our own cybersecurity systems? Yes, we do. What are the government doing to help these ones to ensure that we can actually leverage on them? And that comes to the discussion of open link. What is open link? Open link was used to discover the COVID-19 vaccine that was just produced that affected or helped millions or billions of people in the world today. Who owns open link that the world used? It is a Nigerian who owns that particular database, that was used, that brought all the pharmacies around the world to be able to produce that vaccine. Where is it? It's not in Nigeria, it's somewhere else. So do we have these talents, right? Then we talk about the cloud platform. Who have provided this cloud platform for the federal government of Nigeria to ensure that they are able to compete with hyperscalers, to be able to mitigate some of this cyber attack, because I know where my data is. So we have done that. That is my organization who have partnered with the federal government to ensure that we have a cloud stack, cloud infrastructure that can be able to cater for this federal government. And we're also proposing that for startups too, because we have seen some of our startups who have robust application, but because they are enticed by these free credits by hyperscalers, you see them taking their robust application, hosting it over there. So we're also in talk with startups to see what we can do for them.
Thank you very much. The beauty of a CEO speaking is that he will always sprinkle marketing inside whatever he's saying. And he has given us a very balanced answer and also told you that if you want more, you can come to us. So at this point, we'll go to the audience. If there are questions from the audience, so that we can get our closing takes and closing remarks from our panelists. Okay. Can anyone help with passing the mic around? So we have one. Please, can we see all hands? Because Nigerians have this attitude. One person will ask question, others will not say, I also have my own. If you don't have now, please maintain your peace. So we have just one question. Yes.
Thank you very much for the points that you have raised. They are very salient in addressing the issues we have. And thank you, I must say.
Can you please raise your voice so that we can get your question?
All right, thank you. I hope you can hear me very well. So thank you for your points. They are very salient. I must say that I have concern, and I've been practicing for a while. I've moved across MSSP and financial institution, and I provide security as a service. I must admit that as far as internet is concerned, security is never absolute, but relative. There is no absolute security. We only try. But I have seen in many times that when Nigeria is concerned, we have high record of cyber criminal at large globally because of people trying to break through. It's obvious, it's clear. But my concern on why I'm here is far back, about a decade ago, NIMC has been gathering Nigerians' data through registration of SIM card and the like. And my concern, as of June 20, Paradigm Initiative, one of the public writer, put something online where Nigerian data has sold for as cheap as 100 naira in open market. This is very disturbing. And it took more than 5 days for Nigerian government to take this website down. What are the proactive measures that is done on anything that is called data breach? We can watch over system, monitor system in real time and try to prevent cyber attack. But what happens when the data themselves is looked out from the initiative that brought them to life? It's disturbing.
Okay.
It's really disturbing.
Okay. Thank you. I knew it. That after one person finished speaking, another person will now say, I have a question. Now, maybe you can decide amongst yourselves who wants to take the question. But one thing is very sure. Nobody from NIMC is on this panel. So nobody from NIMC can answer your question. They are only going to provide their own solutions if they are interested in answering. But I'm sure that someone from NIMC is listening and watching, and hopefully they will give you an answer. But we can only try our best to give our perspective. Okay, let's get to your question.
Oh. Good afternoon all. My own question, hello. My own question has to do with the...
So that have they hacked your voice? No.
All right. My own question has to do with the how secured our banks are, as in when it comes to data protection. Because just yesterday, a lady was lamenting on how her deposit was withdrawn just by simply getting her, missing her phone. Somebody have access to her phone, and that is the beginning of losing
all her money.
Yeah. So how?
Okay. So how secured are our banks because they own our money?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So what we're going to do now is we would have our last takes. Everybody will have their last takes. If you're interested, if you want to answer any of the questions, add it to your last takes, and then it goes down here, and then we call it a day. So yeah. If you want to represent NIMC, let them know.
Okay, so I'm not actually representing NIMC. I just want to say that I've been in fora where this was discussed. I happen to have worked in the telco for many years, and when NIMC came with NIN, we had some discussions. Today we have BVN, we have SIMREG, we have NIN, we have National ID, which was the first one before they now try to use this NIN. So they talked about that, and what we have been told was once they're able to consolidate NIN, it's going to be the singular identification for all Nigerians. In which case, even when you want to do your SIMREG, you don't need to give any details. So I'm not speaking for them. That is what I'm aware of, because I was in that sector until 2.5 years ago. Okay. So I hope something will be done. But for my own final take is, honestly speaking, we can only try, and we continue to try when it comes to cyber security. In Nigeria today, just like you also said, it is a big problem because of the situation we find ourselves. And government needs to do something about that. When the senator was talking, he talked about one initiative, and I think Lagos is also doing that. As many tech ops that we can have to pull out all these brains from the streets so that they can use this for positivity, the better for us, honestly speaking. That is on the part of government. On the part of every one of us here, we should know that your data is very sensitive. Sometimes you go to a place, they say, write your name. I will tell you something, in my church, with due respect, I have to mention that they wanted to collect data and they brought papers for people to write their name, and I stopped it, that this will never happen. And we need to start getting to know that we can't just give your data anyhow. That awareness must be there. You will not be sure of who you are giving your data to and what they're going to use
What
it
they're
for.
going to do with it.
Then for the part of companies, the last one I'll say is, with cloud computing, everybody is going to the cloud. I also want to say that it's better to have hybrid. Hybrid in the sense that you can keep some things on your premises and keep some things on the in the cloud. And for enterprises that are here, maybe not for startups, it is always good you have hybrid. That will help in the long way. That's my submission.
Okay. Thank you very much. Messiah, you want us to forget the only lady in our midst?
Oh, no. So I think what I will say, just like I said earlier, these attacks, I don't think they can be prevented. It will surely happen. But what should we do on our part as an individual, as an organization? I think for me, my key takeaway is collaboration. We need to collaborate. Organizations need to collaborate. We have cybersecurity experts. We need to bring them in. I know a lot of organizations will frown and say, oh, the cost of having these people on our payroll. But the question is, if that threat or that attack should happen, right, what is the monetary cost? Can you compare it to when you have, your cybersecurity experts on board? So for me, collaboration. Collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. From your question as per Nigerian banks, I know that most Nigerian banks, they are really spending so much to have protection over their network, over their transactions, and they spend millions every year just to protect. But according to the reports also, 95% of cyber attacks are human-related errors. For the case I just cited, my own error. So you can imagine. So the banks are trying their best. It may not be 100%, but they are. So it still boils down to me and you, how we can keep talking about it, we keep educating ourselves, and you try to avoid suspicious mail, things that you know that this thing is not going to be okay. You avoid it, and that is it. So my own is just, let's keep the awareness, let's keep educating ourselves, and let's keep doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to commend the NDPPC for what they are doing. It's a great work that they are doing, and I encourage them to do more. Dr. Olatunji, my friend, he's doing very, very well. But at the same time, we want them to also beef up what they are doing to have what they call data regulator, not just a personal data, and then also follow suit what the world is doing, adopting the policy, the best industrial policy of 3221. So my friend from RAC Center mentioned that. So we need to see how we can have multi-cloud environment and also ensure that the most critical data of our citizens are stored in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. And on my own part is, while we are taking care of our spiritual warfare, we talk about our physical warfare, it's important that we put attention on our digital warfare. The duty is yours. Safeguard your data, safeguard your phones, be careful of your passwords, and let the government and the organizations do their part. Thank you very much, and a round of applause for my co-panelists.
Please don't leave yet. Please just for a minute. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the panel session on the impact on cybersecurity in the digital age, the challenges and solutions. While the panel session was going on, I noticed that someone important to the LCCI family also walked in. So permit me to quickly recognize the presence of Honorable Mrs. Toki Mabogunje, the past president LCCI. You're so welcome, Ma. Thank you so much for being here. So very quickly, please, I would like to have, for the presentation of plaque for this session, I thought I saw Saladi Smith some seconds ago.